Okay, here I am going to replace my BMW key battery. I've done one key already. This is the battery that came out of it. It's old, maybe 10, 15 years old. Out of a E53, a 2001 BMW X5. Here's the replacement battery. This is not the battery that I used in the last key because these didn't come in time. But this is eBay, 15 bucks. Got two of them. I mean, it looks like an exact replacement. To solve the problem of opening the key, I've tried different tools, but what I've done is I've taken two pieces of wood and just smashed them really hard on the key. My last key I put directly in the vise and made some marks on it. Still works fine in the car, but hindsight's 2020. The wood definitely holds it nice and tight. And I just used a sheetrock knife, as all these other guys are doing, and lightly traced the outside until the key opened up. I've already got the other side of the key open, but to give you an idea of how much easier it is, here's one-handed. When it's in a vise, it really comes apart nice. I've attempted to use power tool, but it's really unnecessary on this key. Just a sharp blade, and once you pierce through the really light plastic, on the other side is the circuit board, and you can feel when the blade goes through to it. But obviously doing this one-handed is not the best way, but I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of how easy it actually is. For the $400 it would cost to get a whole new key made and just toss these in the garbage, to me, you know, what's the harm? You see it just sort of popped right open. If you can see that. I'm just going to trace the front edge a little bit. And it came apart. Now if you're using two hands it won't blow apart like that, but here's the inside of the key. Now if you get a good look at that. The circuit board is soldered here and here. Now what I found online was that you need to make sure you order the prongs that are at 90 degrees. All of the other batteries seem to be at about 180 degrees. So that's the biggest hurdle when you buy the batteries, is you want to make sure you get that at 90 degrees. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I think this is my Excalibur. It's a butane torch. I like them a lot better than the regular soldering irons. They work really, really awesome. This hole here at the end is where all the flame and the heat comes out, so you just want to make sure that that end is not pointed towards the key when you're going to unsolder it. Now, on this end, I'm just going to heat up. I'm going to just heat this end up, and then I'm going to heat that end up, and I'll slide a really small screwdriver or a hemostat in between the battery and the circuit board just to pry it out when it heats up. See if I can position this camera so you can get a look. I don't have a sophisticated setup here, so we'll see what we can make happen. Okay. So I'm going to take this board, I'll just hold it. The hemostats. Actually, I'm going to put it in the vise. It'll make it easier. Now you don't want to crush this thing, so just light pressure in the vise is probably fine. And I got a long handle, so I'm going to switch this up a little. Okay. Just a little pair of hemostats. Grip the battery. I'll start at the far end. Screwdriver first. It's not hard, it's just a little tedious. Well, the last one went easier than this, I'll say that much. Okay, it's one, and here comes the other one. I don't know why this one doesn't want to come out. There's a little bit of glue behind the battery, or a piece of a sticker holding it on nice and tight, so this should pop it right out. Okay, so that is out now. Turn off the torch. You can see how awesome the torch works. So there was a little bit of tape or a little bit of glue that was holding it on. So I sort of just pried it. This metal's really soft. But it came out of the circuit board really easily. So if I were to do this again, I would have taken the screwdriver and just pried the glue loose. And then the battery would have come loose. Of course, you don't need this harness because the new battery comes with one. And I would just break that loose first, and then these prongs will unsolder from the board really easily. So we will reverse this process and solder the new one in. A little bit of that glue is still on there. I'll leave it as a buffer. Just putting some solder paste on there. And I like to scuff these up a little bit, but I guess you don't have to. Put some solder on them. Now to charge this battery after it's in there, I connected a battery tender to my car and I just put the key forward in position number 1. Forget what BMW calls it, like K1 or something like that. They call it something special. But it's really just where the radio and stuff comes on. Okay. Now we'll see if I can get it back in. Third hand would be nice. Okay, that's one side. And that's really it. It's now in, and that's all there is to it. I don't want to mess with it too much. And these are the two old batteries, hopefully. Yep. And the new one's in there. And it's... Is it in? It was in, and I broke it free, so I'm going to resolder that side. And I generally manipulate the solder joints pretty hard after I'm done with them, just to make sure that they're soldered nicely. Put a little bit more solder on there. They make it out to be a big deal, but it really isn't, because if you think about it, you're going to throw this key away anyway. So what have you got to lose by trying it? $15, which is about the cost of the battery. And then if it works, good for you. You saved yourself $400. If it doesn't work, really, so what? You didn't lose anything. You needed a new key anyway. That's the way I rationalized this particular project. And you don't need to resync the keys or anything like that doing this. At least I didn't have to do that with my last key. So let's see here. Let's see if it works. I don't see why it wouldn't. There's only one way that the circuit board could fit back into the key. So don't worry about, am I going to get it back in right? There's only one way that it could go in. And all right. And we'll take you guys out there to see if it works. And it should. Oh, there's a key in it. That would explain it. That's the last one I did. Okay, well, it works to start it. There it goes. All right. So that works. All right, unlock. We'll check the other key. Yeah, that works. This is the last one I did. I put it back together with some JB Quick. It's a 15-minute JB Weld epoxy. Gives you a little bit of time to work with it and hold it together nicely. So that's what I'll do with this key now. Is I'll put it together with some epoxy, just a little bit around the edges. It's been about a couple of weeks with the last key, and I've been intentionally beating it up, throwing it on the floor at the gym, trying to destroy it really, and it's held up. There's another good video online where people are using, the guy used Surgy glue, I have some of that also. I did not get a chance to try it because I just went with the JB Weld instead. But I'll just take a little bead of the JB Weld and I'll run it along this end here, around the outside, and then I'll probably put a little bit around this part too, and put it back together. And some of the jagged edges here, I'll probably clean that up a little bit with the sandpaper or with the knife, just so that when I put it back together, it goes together nice and clean. And then after it's together, with the JB Weld, you can just take a towel, a rag, like this. It usually works the best, and just wipe it around the seam around the outside, and it'll wipe up any excess. And it firms up pretty quick. If you mess up, don't panic. It'll come apart with a little bit of work. But hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it was helpful.